Actually, it wasn't a hit at all. It did one preview before it opened, and I think from that preview, Disney basically learned there was no audience for this movie and kids hated it. And so all merchandising was pulled, and the marketing suddenly shifted from what was going to be towards a young audience to try to find an adult audience, or almost sell it like it was. They had no idea what to do with it. The preview was a disaster. And I remember being in the elevator and the producer and some of the executives going, well, kids hate it. Oh, well, it was this kind of like sad feeling in the elevator, and I knew it was wrong, but there's nothing you can do. They put it in front of a bunch of kids that were expecting a Disney animation. And obviously, they were expecting something closer to, The Lion King or Little Mermaid, and they were getting Nightmare Before Christmas. And it's not what they were expecting. And it wasn't finished, so there were still storyboards in there. And for kids, I think that's pretty hard to kind of imagine, because they'd explain that, but then when they went up to ask the kids, what do you call it, the focus group thing they do, they go, why were there stick drawings in the movie? And it's like...
And the brilliant executives were like, they hate it. They hate the stick drawings.
It wasn't what they were expecting, and they didn't know what to do with it, so they just put it out, and it died pretty quickly. And that's why I was really kind of depressed about it, because it just disappeared fast. But then it had that rare thing of a second life, which almost never happens in movies. Wizard of Oz had that happen, and obviously Rocky Horror Picture Show, and some others have seen. Donnie Darko perhaps got that kind of second life, but it's incredibly rare that a movie actually gets revived after it's gone. You can probably count the number of successful, second life movies on one hand. And especially if you had 6 fingers, perhaps you could. And but it was like it was really a surprise. And in fact, it was probably 10 years later. I was in Japan, in Tokyo, with Tim. We were doing promo for Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and it was seeing Jack and Sally merchandising everywhere. And he was like, I'd never even seen any of this stuff. And then it turned out there was a Nightmare Before Christmas inspired club in Tokyo. And then it was like, you know what? This thing has actually kind of got a life. And Disney, to their credit, picked up on that vibe. And they said, you know what? We know what it is now. We didn't know what it was then. Let's try to re-release it. And they began a series of re-releases and things, and they really did actually get behind it. But it took them a decade to figure out what the movie was. Because you can understand, it looked and felt so different than anything they had done. It was so off their grid, and they had no control over it. Tim was just doing it himself with Henry Selick, purposely put the studio up north, so it wasn't like easy to drop in and visit. And stop motion animation itself was not popular at all at that time, and something they didn't really do. So there was no sense of what is this thing.